In my episode 86, I read some stories about curse and karma. I'm returning to the theme one more time this week with a much bigger emphasis on karma this time. Karma is one of the backbone of Korean shamanism. While in Buddhism, where karma is originated, it is much more complicated and sophisticated concept. Karma in shamanism is much more straightforward. If you do an evil and harm others, it will come back to you, if not in your own lifetime, certainly to your descendants down the line. For that reason, hating somebody is already bad enough, but actively cursing somebody is definitely a big taboo. And yet, taboos won't be taboos if some didn't dare to break them. In today's stories, we see how the curse could go straight back to the one who initiated the curse. True or not, I must say it's rather satisfying to read karma doing its job. So, here are 3 allegedly true stories about curse and karma. As always, handpicked, translated and narrated by your host, Anthony. I'm a 29-year-old woman, and this happened exactly 9 years ago when I was a freshman. I was then having lunch at the uni cafeteria with mates and got a call from my uncle, the eldest brother of my mother. She has 5 siblings. He said that his mother, my grandma, had a car accident and was now in hospital. I hurriedly went back home, and only when I faced Mom's crying and panicking face could I realize it was a serious situation. When we arrived at the hospital together, Grandma was just moved to the intensive care unit after the emergency operation. I, Mom, and her sisters waited all crying and sighing to get to see Grandma for the very limited visit time slot of the intensive care ward. When we finally allowed in, Grandma's condition was heartbreaking. Her face was all swollen, red, blue and black, and could barely breathe with the help of a ventilator. Couldn't promise anything, was doctor's word. Apparently, Grandma was on the way back from the market, and the bus she was on ran over the fence and rolled down. Because it was a major accident, the intensive care ward was full of other passengers who were in the same bus, including a little boy on the bed next to Grandma's. He was barely 8 and was on the way back from school. Over the few days, we naturally got to talk to the boy's mom, who was just as devastated and distraught as we were. Fortunately, Grandma's condition improved and was moved to a normal 2-bed ward. By coincidence, the room was shared by the same 8-year-old boy who was moved there a day before Grandma. But even out of the intensive care, the situation was still touch and go for both patients. Both were hooked up to various machines and tubes. And in the following few days, I noticed a weird coincidence. When Grandma's condition improved and my family were happy about it, the boy's condition worsened and his mother shed tears next to us. When the boy improved, my grandma got worse, and it repeated at least several times. In the end, we could not outwardly be happy when Grandma got better, facing the distressed boy's mother in the same room. Now, my grandma is a shaman. Her mother was a shaman, so was her grandma. Basically, the shaman's fate ran through the female line of the family. But Grandma didn't want to see her 4 daughters becoming the subject of the same fate, and she prayed and pleaded for years to save her children. Her God must have been moved by her deep wish, and my mom and her sisters, though they all clearly shared spiritual power and clarity, could lead an ordinary life free from the shaman's fate. A month into Grandma's hospitalization, Mom and aunts were all exhausted to care for Grandma day and night, and young me was assigned to keep Grandma's side for one night. While the boy's mom next to us fell asleep on the cot from the early night, I guess she should be just as exhausted, I stayed up a while longer just looking at Grandma's face and massaging her hand. Then I think I fell asleep just with my head on Grandma's side, and had a dream. I saw Grandma and a boy sitting side by side on a bus. As soon as I realized the boy was the same boy sharing the ward, the bus shook and rolled. Everybody tumbled and rolled with it. In the midst of the pandemonium, somebody screeched, "Take her! Take her! Take her!" It was so loud that my eardrum could pop. And then I was woken up by my phone ringing. It was my mom. "You mustn't sleep tonight. Just pretend sleeping and watch on what the boy's mom should do. Just quietly spy on her move. Understood?" she said. It was a weird instruction, but I knew my mom's sixth sense well enough and just said I would do as I was told. So I lied down on the cot and pretended to sleep. By then I was really drowsy, but Mom would have killed me if I failed to follow her order. About an hour passed. Boy's mom cautiously got up. She quietly approached Grandma, lifted a bandage over her face, and wiped her wound with a white handkerchief. And then also took some pee from Grandma's pee bag too. She was then hooked to a catheter. I couldn't understand what it was all about, but knew it was exactly why Mom told me to watch her. In the morning, Mom came over and I reported what I saw. Her face changed color, and before I knew it, Mom summoned her sisters. When Mom explained the situation to them, it turned out the sisters all had exactly the same dream over the past few days. Of a strange man, I guess a Grim Reaper, trying to take Grandma away. Grandma would shout at him, "I know it's not yet my turn. Why are you keep trying to take me away?" To which the man would just shake his head with a confused expression. These sisters, sharing the sixth sense running in the family, already found the boy's mother somewhat suspicious. They say they literally smelt it apparently. I think I knew what they meant, because I too did smell something akin to rotting food when she was around, and knew the weird pattern of one getting worse when the other got better should be more than just a coincidence. My report from the previous night only confirmed their suspicion. The family decided to seek an advice from a shaman and chose a grandma's acquaintance, well known for her spiritual power. The shaman just listened to the situation with her eyes closed, and then said to Uncle, my dad, and my male cousins, "You boys shall wait outside." And then to the wives of two uncles, "You too should also wait outside." Now in the room were just Mom, her three sisters, and I. By the way, I'm the only daughter among the children of my aunts and uncles. The shaman stared at each of us face a while and said, "Nothing to worry. Misfortune is about to come to your mother." Then she pointed a finger at me, saying, "But it's all good, so long you are there." What? All fine even though a misfortune was about to come to Grandma? I guess it wasn't just me who found it dubious. Mom and aunts pleaded for help with teary faces, to which the old shaman bursted out, once again pointing at me. "You I said it's all good so long you are there. Now stop the fuss and go. Before she chased us all out, she said to me, Don't you ever come back here. It will take a long, long prayer to straighten up the stir you created. Without any clear answer, we all just came back to hospital and to Grandma's side. Then, the boy's mother came in with a strange young woman, and the young woman gave me a one glance and rushed out of the room again. I mean, did I look so scary? But what followed was the loud back and forth between the boy's mother and the young woman, so loud we could all hear it still inside the ward. I wondered why it didn't work. Now I know. I can't. So long that girl in there is guarding it off. I can't. I'll give all the money back. I can't. I won't. Young woman shouted. What are you talking about? Are you giving up on my boy's life then? Boy's mother bewailed back. We were all confused what was going on, but then the young woman came back to the room, came up to me, and kowtowed to me. I'm sorry. I beg you to forgive me. She was clearly older than I, but cried and pleaded as if I was some sort of a judge of her life and death. I was blinded for money, but never dreamed I was to deal with a great power as you. Please forgive me. While I was totally lost, my mom dragged her out by her collar, followed by 3 aunts. What the young woman explained was, she was a shaman, and when the boy's mother seeked her, she could see the boy's life was doomed already. But the desperate mother pleaded to save her son's life, and she agreed to use the forbidden spell. She instructed the boy's mother to obtain bodily fluid of my grandma, whether it be blood, pus, or pee. Then she stained the shroud with the fluid and prayed that the death come to Grandma instead of the boy. But repeated curse didn't seem to work, and that day came to the ward herself to curse again in the vicinity. But right next to Grandma was me. According to the young shaman, I was born with unusually strong qi, only further strengthened by the prayers the generations of women in the family offered to the shamanic god. Comparing to that, her spiritual power was nothing, and that was why her curse couldn't work. She once again bursted into tears and begged for forgiveness, but it couldn't save her from getting a few slaps from angry mom and aunts. But of course it wasn't over yet. The angry sisters now came to the ward to face the boy's mother. But before the fight could really take off, the boy's condition suddenly turned much worse, and he had to be moved to the intensive care once again. In the following days, Grandma recovered miraculously quickly. On the day she was finally discharged, my mom discreetly inquired about the boy's condition, and the nurse told her that he was now gone to heaven. Back home, Grandma told me that when she was young, she thought it was just her destiny to become a shaman. But once she herself experienced the social stigma against shamans, she would rather die than let her daughters succeed the fate. She especially feared for my mom because she possessed particularly strong spiritual power. So she prayed and prayed the best humanly possible, and could save them from the shaman's fate, and thought that was that, not expecting the power could be inherited down to her only granddaughter, me. Then she held my hand and said with a wet voice, "But then It was your power that saved my life. I can't even complain now. I'm sorry that I'm your granny. I'm afraid with your strong gift, your third eye should open one day soon and get to see what you're not supposed to see. But don't fear, my baby. It's just your gift. Take it as is and try to use the power for the good of the people around you. And well, just as she said, I did start seeing things that I'm not supposed to see soon afterwards. But that's another story for another day. A close friend gifted me a blue training trousers. Bit random, but they resemble the old gym trousers I used to wear in middle and high schools, and I thanked him that I was going to wear them at home. So I did wear the trousers as a home pajama time to time. After the day's work, I would idle around in front of TV or computer in them with a can of beer. Typical. About a month passed since I got the gift. I had a dream one night which felt unusually real. I was in my flat and somebody banged on my door. "Who is it?" I asked and checked the door cam. A strange guy was there, smiling creepily. In his hand was that a knife? I had to run, but couldn't run just in my underwear. My eyes caught the blue training trousers, so I put them on and ran. But no matter how fast I ran or hid myself, the creepy man always found me. And in the end, I got stabbed by him. At which point I woke up with a startle. What an unpleasant dream. I was soaked with the sweats, and as I changed into dry clothes, I noticed I'd been wearing the blue trousers. I didn't think much of it and slept sound for the rest of the night in dry new pajamas. But the same dream returned time after time. I would be always running away from the creepy guy in my blue trousers, and he would always find me no matter what. It started bothering me, but didn't know what to think of it or do about it. Then one day in the same dream, I chose my pair of khakis instead of blue trainers. And the man didn't follow me this time. He was just keep banging on the door. Even in the dream, I was surprised with the new situation and looked back. And the man was now looking down at me from the balcony.
Why are you wearing different trousers? I couldn't find you.
And I was shocked to find the man's face now resembling my friend's face. When I woke up, I found a friend had called me. I called back, and somebody picked it up, but there was no response. Till the line disconnected. I wondered, but it was late night already, and just thought to call him again the following day. When I did in the morning, it was the friend's father who answered. He passed on the news that my friend ended his life. At the funeral, I asked his parents what happened, but they said they themselves had no idea why he made such an extreme choice. Back from the funeral, I burnt the blue trainers, praying for the friend's peaceful passing. Why did he gift me the trousers? And then why did he kill himself? I have no answers, but now I can't anymore innocently accept when somebody should gift me something for no apparent reason. One day, a shaman opened a business right opposite of my family home. She must have been good. Tons of clients visited day and night, and when she put on a ritual, the noise was deafening even across the alleyway. My dad is pretty easygoing character, and he took it light-heartedly for quite some time. But the continuing noise, and especially her clients parking their car right in front of our house, finally ticked him off the line. He decided to have a word with the shaman, and I joined him. Dad started it off calm and friendly, but the shaman hit it back with such an attitude. "Don't dare to interfere with God's business. Just go," she said. Nobody would take it good-heartedly. Dad lost his temper and shouted back, "I hear a shaman's vocation is caring and helping people. Should you disturb your neighbor and don't give a toss about it? You're but a shitty shaman. I'm sure the god or demon you're serving is just as shitty." "What? How dare you nothing insult my god? Piss off before you are hit by the divine curse!" Shaman screamed. I was just as angry, so yelled, "Fuck you and fuck your damn god too," before we left. But then, right from the following day, my dad, who'd been healthy as a bull all his life, started complaining severe backache, which quickly developed into inexplicable weakness and ailments. He went through various medical tests, X-ray, CT, ultrasound, but they found nothing, while Dad could hardly move by himself. I thought of the shaman talking about curse, but didn't want to believe such a thing. But then, when I myself started to feel ill with achy shoulders and general sense of weakness, I couldn't quite brush it off anymore. In the end, I sought another shaman to see if my suspicion had any substance. As soon as I walked into the shaman's room, she threw a handful of rice at me and shouted, "Wherever have you got so many dirty curses all over you? Get out!" I was stunned and hung on to her to help me and save me. She said the curse was from a more powerful god than hers, and there wasn't much she could do. She barely managed to get off the curse stuck on my shoulder, and indeed, I felt the pain and weight off my shoulder. But she said it was all but a temporary relief. Following day, I talked about my situation to some uni mates, just to let the weight off my mind, if nothing else. Then it turned out the mother of one of the mates suffered shaman's illness a while back and got help from some foreign healer, witch, or occultist. He read tarot cards and could deal with the various spells too, he said. I nagged the mate till he connected me to him. The foreigner, I don't know how else to address him exactly, spoke surprisingly good Korean, and one of his eyes was all clouded as if covered by a white translucent film. He claimed he could see what others can't see with that eye. He then put some ornament with a star sign on my forehead and chanted some spell. He said it was to get rid of the curse from my shoulder and also block any further attacks. But that was only a small bit of the trouble my family was facing. I begged him to help me and my dad further. The foreigner sighed and said,
"It's a complex problem involving local god and the deity of the territory. That shaman is definitely not an easy one. I can't promise you anything."
But I kept begging on, and he finally agreed to visit my home, first to see the situation in person. He looked around my home and the surroundings.
"The god your neighbor serves is not any old shamanic deity. He is big and powerful, Otherwise, the shaman couldn't have opened a business in this town.
According to him, this area had been guarded by the territorial deity for a long time, and other usual shamanic gods wouldn't dare to hang around here. But the god my neighbor served was so powerful that even the time-old territorial deity could not beat.
The territorial deity is naturally very upset now, and that could be our weapon,
Foreigner said. For that, he would first have to help the deity to regain his power, and he needed a week to prepare. A week passed, and the foreigner returned with all sorts of weird-looking objects like a dagger, stick, goblet, various dry herbs, and an incense burner. He took it up to the local mountain and performed a ritual of a sort. Burnt herbs in the burner, walked around it, then threw some powder that flared up the fire, then sang some chant in the language I didn't understand. He carried it on for about an hour, and then digged up some dirt, which he brought back to my place, made into a paste with water, and painted it all over the walls of my house. He must have seen my expression of saying, "What the F?" and explained that was to mark the house as the territorial deity's ground. It was not the ultimate solution, but would help to fend off the attacks from the shaman. And lo and behold, from that day on, my dad, who couldn't move by himself by then, started walking again, though his ailments was still there. The foreigner said it would take further 3 days for the territorial deity to recover, and came back 3 days later, once again with various stuffs. As I helped him unloading the stuffs, my neighbor the shaman came out and stared at us. Foreigner said to her first,
"You have so much power. Shouldn't you use it for the good rather than to harm others?"
"Some half-baked thing dares to interfere. Piss off if you don't want to die before your time!" shouted the shaman and went back into her house. Having met her face to face, Foreigner confirmed once again the shaman and her god were indeed overwhelmingly powerful. He first put up several pieces of cloth with weird letters written on around the house, which he said was something similar to talismans. Then he put 3 statuettes on the table I prepared for him and chanted a spell. He explained soon there would be a spiritual battle against the shaman's god. He was so powerful that there was no way he could fight against the god alone, and he was now summoning help from other gods. The territorial deity he boosted up wouldn't join the battle directly, but he would form the basic defense line. Say, should the shaman's god wield the sword, the territorial god would make the sword rust away. Foreigner then took out 5 black candles, put some scented oil on them, added a metal object in star shape on the table, and burnt some sort of resin in the incense burner. Once the table was set, he sang some weird song and walked around the table with the incense burner in his hand. And right that moment, be it a coincidence or not, sudden gusts of wind rattled the windows.
"It has begun,"
Foreigner said. He now sat down and chanted to the rhythm of a bell, and just as to rival it, I could hear the typical noise of a shamanic ritual from the neighbor.
"If we win this battle, all the curses they initiated shall go back to them,"
Foreigner said. It lasted at least an hour of him chanting, ringing the bell, standing up, and gesturing away as if pushing something away. Then he shivered all over like a man with a most intense convulsion, and in the end, passed out. Fortunately, he got around again not long after.
I think we won,
he said. All chills and goosebumps. Just some moments later, I heard an ambulance rushing into our alleyway and took the shaman away. Apparently, in the middle of the ritual, the shaman walked on the blades. It's one of the typical performances some shamans demonstrate during the shamanic ritual. They show their god's power by showing that they could walk on a sharp blade without getting hurt. But that day, the blade cut my neighbor's flesh into deep wounds.
As I said, they are now met by their own curses,
said the foreigner before he packed his stuff and left. 2 days later, my dad was up and running again like his ailments were all but a dream, while our neighbor, even after she came back from hospital, seemed to have lost her power. The endless flow of clients dried up, and she moved out not long after. Hi, it's Anthony here, and thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and I'm sure you did. Personally, I found them pretty amusing, really. As an adult, most of us lose the faith in divine justice, that the evil shall be punished and the righteousness shall be rewarded. Life is definitely too complex and complicated for it to work according to such simple human morality. But if you are ever in a situation that you hate somebody so much that you feel like to curse the person, I think it's much wiser to walk away from the person for your own sanity. Today's story is about karma aside. If you enjoyed my work, please give it a like and a comment, and please consider subscribing to my channel. On this channel, I present various amusing, weird, and spooky stories straight from Korean web communities. Whether you are particularly interested in Korean culture or just enjoy listening to various weird stories in general, you will enjoy my channel. If you'd support me more directly, I also have a Buy Me a Coffee account. The link's in the description. Buy Me a Coffee supporters enjoy an early access to my new content. Thank you. Until next Sunday, stay safe and take care.